Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, Shlok 1 to 40. In these shloks, there are various subjects. The first one is Tyag of relinquishment. Then, from Shlok 13 to 18, it is causes of karma according to the Sankhya Yoga. And 19 to 40, the classification of knowledge and action. These are described. Arjun said to Lord Krishna, Mahabaho, omnipresent Vasudev, I want to understand the difference between sannyas and tyag. Shri Bhagavan said, many scholars consider giving up all such worthy actions which are performed with the desire to acquire worldly gifts is sannyas. But other thoughtful ones consider giving up all desire to acquire anything in return for the worthy action. This is true tyag. Other scholars consider that all actions are blemished with one fault or the other and therefore should be given up. But there are others who say yajna, donation, dan, tapa are such duties of men which should never be given up. Arjun, between sannyas and tyag, first you must try to understand my views on tyag. Tyag indeed is of three categories, that is sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. Yajna, dan and tapa, these actions should never be given up. Instead, these must always be performed because these are the actions which truly purify the wise people. Therefore, Parth, these actions, that is yajna, dan and tapa, and all worthy actions and duties must be performed without attachment and without desiring the fruits of the labor. Unworthy actions must be abandoned altogether. But the man must not give up his duty. It must be performed. However, attachment and expectation of the results of the actions should be given up. Therefore, due to attachment, if one gives up one's duty, that is known as tamas tyag. All actions are full of misery, and if one gives up one's duty due to fear of difficulties involved therein, it is known as rajas tyag. The kind of tyag does not bring about any benefit. The actions which are prescribed by the Shastras to a person, if performed without attachment and without expectation of any result, are to be considered as true sattvic tyag. The person who does not despise actions of his duty, even though they are not as enviable and are not considered to be great and likable actions, if same fall under his duty, he carries them out without attachment or expectation, he is in fact a true tyagi. Because it is not possible for anyone to really give up all body-related actions. Therefore, the person who gives up the fruit of his actions, only he must be considered as a tyagi. The person who does not give up but desires the results of his actions, indeed gets good or bad or mixed results of his actions after his death. But the person who renunciates the fruits of his action does not have to suffer any consequences of his actions at any time at all. Mahabhavo, there are 5 factors to fulfill your duties, your actions, which have been described in Sakanya Shastra. These are known to nullify attachment with action. I will now describe these factors to you. The performer, his intention, various senses that affect the performance, various kinds of efforts that affect your previous actions, good or bad. These are 5 factors to fulfill your duty. Whatever is good or bad action is performed by the person with mind, body, or speech. The performance is caused by the aforesaid factors. However, if anyone, due to lack of understanding, considers that the soul is the only reason for a person's action, in spite of these factors explained by me above, then you must consider that the mind of such a person is not very clear. Therefore, he lacks understanding of the reasons of his actions. However, the person who understands that his soul is not the real cause of actions, and he who does not get involved in the worldly objects or worldly actions, such a person, even if he kills the whole world, in fact, is not a killer. Therefore, he is not a sinner. The objective of knowledge, the knowledge itself, the person who holds the knowledge, these are the 3 causes which motivate action. The person who takes action, his senses, and whatever he does, all these 3 collectively form the action itself. According to the scriptures, the various attributes, knowledge, deed, and doer, are classified into 3 different categories. I shall now explain these to you. Knowledge, which brings out the essential unity of the indestructible, indivisible soul, is considered sattvic knowledge. But the knowledge which gives an impression that all living beings are individuals with their own attributes should be considered as rajasic knowledge. And the knowledge which is engaged in the transient body and which does not permit thinking beyond that, and what is devoid of any creative meaning, should be known as tamasic knowledge. Action which is performed according to the principles laid down in the scriptures and is carried out by the person free from ego and jealousy and is performed without attachment to the result should be known as sattvic karma. But the action which is not free from ego or attachment and is performed under great stress by a proud person is called rajasic karma. The action which began without taking into consideration its result, loss, violence, and the ability to perform, but is started purely on ignorance, is called tamasic karma. Arjun, the doer, the performer, who is free from attachment, does not speak with ego and is full of patience and enthusiasm. The doer, who is free from blemishes of joy and sorrow regarding the success or failure of his action, is called sattvic, endowed with goodness. But the doer, who is attached to the result, who is greedy, and who causes trouble to others and harbors excess emotions of joy or sorrow, is called rajasic, endowed with passion. The person who disobeys scriptures, who impedes the livelihood of others, he who is arrogant, lazy, morose, and he procrastinated of his kind, his duty, is known to be under influence of tamas. Arjun, you must also know the three categories of wisdom and determination depending upon these three qualities and their attributes. The wisdom that teaches how to do one's duty while remaining a householder in the name of God, and the wisdom that understands duty and non-duty, fear and fearlessness, attachment and non-attachment, is known as sattvic, endowed with goodness, wisdom. But Arjun, the wisdom that does not distinguish between one's religion and sin or duty or non-duty is known as rajasic, endowed with passion, wisdom. And the wisdom that considers non-duty as duty, sin as religion, and considers only wrong as right is called tamasic, endowed with ignorance, wisdom. Parth, the determination of the mind which emerges out of devotion to the Almighty, the God, and is carried out by a person with mind, soul and body is called sattvic, endowed with goodness, determination. But when a person acts to fulfill his determination, which is arrived at with the keen desire of the result and is full of attachment, it is known as rajasic, endowed with passion, determination. And Parth, the determination of evil-minded person which engages him in fear, worry, laziness and sorrow, because of which he cannot come out of these negative emotions, is called tamasic determination. Arjun, even happiness is of three kinds. I shall explain to you. Happiness which is derived from the love of God, meditation and the service to God, and which causes the end of sorrows, through which happiness, though it appears cumbersome in the beginning, but the result of which is like amrit, nectar, is known as sattvic, endowed with goodness, happiness. But the happiness which is derived out of senses and sensibilities, though it appears to be heavenly during its enjoyment, but carries the feeling of guilt at the end, is called rajasic, endowed with passion, happiness. However, the happiness which stupefies the soul in the beginning or in the end, happiness which is perceived through laziness, sleep and inaction, is known as tamasic happiness. Arjun, neither on this earth nor in the heaven is there any such creature who is free from these three gunas, attributes, because the entire universe is created out of Maya or illusion. This is how Lord Krishna explains these subjects to Arjun in these shlokas.